Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Modern Day Goddess Podcast. I'm Ciara.
And I'm Solé.
And today we are talking about everything that's currently going on right now with the Epstein files being released and the chaos that is unfolding as a result of that. We don't know necessarily how we are going to tackle something that is absolutely so atrocious, triggering, and enraging. But we thought it would be important to just shed light on the massive deception that we are experiencing from the people in power that are leading our country, that we are looking up to as celebrities, and overall just the people that are governing our world with the intentions of not looking out for our innocence, but using their lives as profit and as sacrifice. Whew. Feels like a big one, especially as I am a mother myself. We got a lot to say for this one.
We really do. And, Ciara, you've mentioned a couple of times this morning as we were sort of processing the best way to approach this, that you often start in the spiritual path, sort of just finding yourself, right? And like finding the magic of it and like being so amazed at how incredible it is to know yourself as a soul and to awaken in this way. And it feels so good. And you're in the upper chakras. And it's easy to stay there. And I think a lot of us people who have found ourselves on the sort of awakened path do end up staying there. And we often kind of are accused of bypassing, if you will, sort of real life human experiences and like the actual like hell that is present on this planet in various capacities. And so it's new for both Ciara and I to actually kind of address something like this and something very directly and very head on, which is why she and I have both been kind of like, how are we going to talk about this? And there's two things happening here in our experiences individually and then collectively, is that there's this release of the Epstein files, which is a cultural collapse, frankly. Mm-hmm. It's a cultural collapse because America is the superpower of the world, and Hollywood and sort of the American music and arts culture is the, artistic superpower of the world. And what we're seeing is that has been an absolute, there's not even words to describe, the people who are in these files, and from, music and culture and arts to political leaders to public figures. It's everybody. And it's American. It's America. This is who runs America. And it's really disturbing. And it would be my tendency to kind of approach it from a more like thematic approach, where I'm sort of extracting the themes of this and identifying sort of the problems that are inherent in what's happening here, and then give sort of a overarching, like, this is what we can do about it solution. But Ciara and I are not in that energy today. Frankly, we both are sort of individually also going through like a lot of the same themes in our own individual life. And so today we're here and we're going to talk about it today. We're going to talk about it. We're going to call this out because we are so tired of being subject to people who are this evil and this married to their own darkness, that they have plagued not only our nation, but the entire world.
Wow. Yeah, I think that was such a beautiful way to approach it. And I know we're trying to find the best way to even just tackle this. That was great. What really stood out to me immediately is just like the overarching theme of spirituality and how we were viewing reality through this beautiful lens of compassion, understanding, and tapping into people's potential. But as we addressed in our last episode of The Crone, like the Crone is fiercely like, absolutely not. I see you exactly as you are, and you need to get the fuck away. Access revoked. And it's what happens on this spiritual path. It's like we do see someone's potential. We see their light. But the grounded reality is that you can see a predator's light and potential, but they could very well be molesting your child. And what, are you going to just absolutely bypass the fact that they are harming your children and other children around you because you know their heart, you know the potential of who they can be, but are they actually that? And I think it's so harmful in all religious institutions to just lie back down into the praying and hoping and wishing that for someone to heal and to realize like the solution here is to revoke access and to speak truth about what's actually happening. And what's been happening is that we are afraid to speak up against people that are actively abusing their power. We are afraid to speak up and cause misalignments at parties and work experiences, work environments, when women haven't even done anything wrong.
Yeah, she's referring to.
Sorry.
No, it's good because she's referring to, you know, the micro scale of this happening in each of our lives pretty regularly, where like we as women have to dance around the sexual predatory nature of men in so many ways because we don't want to cause a scene, we don't want to kill the vibe, we don't want to seem harsh, and yet it's like not okay, and it hasn't been okay for a very long time. And I think that women have had to dance around it and to try to like placate it and make it okay and find ways to make it okay. And as she kind of mentioned earlier, like act like, well, we know their heart. When first of all, often the times the light you see in another is your own. And that's such a brutal lesson for many people because we do want to see the good in people. And it does play so perfectly into our last episode, or the one before, sorry, about the crone and the maiden and, sort of transcending from maiden to crone, because the maiden does see the good in all the people. And then she's getting, her butt kicked by these people, or these predatory things are happening. And you like learn how to like compartmentalize it in your subconscious because you don't want to be the one. You first of all don't want to be a victim to everything because that's not fun. And like, when you're like even remotely accountable for your own reality, you take accountability and sometimes hyper accountability for the things that happen. But then B, you don't want to be the one that's always killing the vibe or always calling things out or always, it's like, where's the balance? But the problem is that women are being preyed upon. Like if we're coming back to the Epstein files, if even
women and children.
I mean, yeah, like not even, actually mostly children in those files. It's actually so sickening. And it's not even, the degree of evil that is in those files is beyond what's fathomable for like what I hope is the normal average human being, although it makes us wonder like where is the spectrum and how many people could be potentially this evil. I mean, not to mention the like rape gangs in the UK, that there was like tens of thousands of men who had like a group chat of some sort where they were talking about raping their mothers and sisters and daughters. It's like how did we get here?
I am just enraged right now. I have chills, and it just all goes back to the theme of the modern day goddess. The goddess is spit on. She is abused. She is sexualized. She is just expected to take on all of this violence and just monstrous things. And then we're not allowed to speak up about it because we're afraid to kill the vibe. We're afraid to be the one who is the bearer of bad news. That's what people used to call me, because I was always shedding light on the bad things that are happening because people are just turning a blind eye. This is what's happening right now. Like the things that were released on the Epstein files, we weren't surprised about that. We already knew. But we are just like trying to continue living our lives and just keep hoping that things are going to change, that it's like that 5D. It's not being grounded in reality. We're just hoping and praying that things are going to change, that the war is going to end, that these bad people are just going to get killed off. No, it's going to take the 3D grounded action to be like, no more. We need to speak up against about it. And that starts on the micro, because this is what's happening on the macro right now. People are getting abused on all different tiers and levels of power. And then on the micro, we're seeing it in our family. We're seeing it in our family members, our work, our colleagues. Like, it is around us. I know specifically in my field, I have someone in the family that was recently just arrested for pedophilia with children. That started at, the girl was age 6. This is in my direct line, my sphere. He was not related to me in any way. It was through blood, or not through blood. It was through marriage of another family member. But still, if this is happening in my sphere, what's happening to the people all around us? And I know I, in my own path, have been sexualized and mistreated by men in power throughout multiple corporations and positions I have been in. And because of the fear of potentially losing my job or being the tattletale, I would just take it. Because there's so much fear involved in that. In fact, my last position I left, this man was actively sexualizing multiple women, getting them drunk and doing inappropriate things. He was married, of course, with 2 children. And I never spoke up against it, but I left, and he ended up getting a lawsuit filed against him and lost his position of power. Like, it's just so crazy to me how common it actually is in just my reality. And then my reality is also watching TV and hearing about the Epstein files being released. And it's just like, when is it going to stop? And how is it going to stop? Like, I'm like, let's start a revolution right now. Like, I quite honestly think that's what it's going to take.
It does seem like a great time for a revolution. I mean, because the thing is, it's still hard to, it's not, but it is hard to believe if you've read like even a portion of the 3 million pages of these files, from, sacrifice to cannibalism to human trafficking to countries selling their young girls to these people. I mean, it is like, it's really disturbing. And if we're like, okay, as a normal, compassionate, high-functioning human being, what do we do about it? And we would expect that obviously these people will certainly at least go to jail. I mean, these are like this is beyond jail. This is like death penalty crimes. Yeah. And yet, will any of them be arrested? Probably not. Probably not. And so because the people who would be arresting them are also involved. This is the problem. This is how deep it goes. And any of us who are conspiracy theory minded have seen this for so long. Like we shake our heads at the world stage because it's so absolutely beyond evil that it's, all we're like, okay, we just need to build a new world. I mean, there's no other way around it. The system is not fixable. The system is designed to fail. The people who are leading the system are corrupt at the core. So what do we do? And I think for a long time, we have been in the frame of the sort of spiritual frame of like, let's build a new world. Let's just do things differently. Let's be different types of human beings. Let's lead totally different lives. And then something like this comes forward where it's put in our face, and the likelihood of any of them ever facing any type of repercussion of this being so low that now it's like, you know what? Maybe we need a little bit more than to build a new world and just let the system collapse. Because as we're seeing, evil folds in on itself. It's not sustainable. It doesn't stand on any sustainable legs. It has no connection to truth or love or divinity. And so, in time, it's always going to be revealed. And still, the likelihood of them being punished for this in any way is very low. And so if we're not going to depend on the system itself to indict the system itself, then the people have to do it. And what is this going to look like? I mean, we don't know, but it sure smells like a perfect time for a revolution if there ever was one, because we are sick and tired. I mean, beyond like women dealing with the sexual predatory nature of men, as we've been describing so far, beyond that, it's just that the people who run the world and who we're paying taxes to and who we're looking up to and listening to and cheering on and seal clapping for, corrupt is not even the word anymore. These folks, like, they need to be burned at the stake or something. Yeah. There's something really wrong here.
All I keep thinking as you're like talking about how the system isn't going to provide justice for the people that are leading the system. Like, there's no justice because they are the people in power. All I could think of is like the whole thing needs to burn to the fucking ground. It needs to burn to the ground. It needs far beyond collapsing. It needs to burn and wither and dissipate, and we need to build from the ashes. I know that's something that I've always been so passionate about, and you too, is like, whatever isn't of love and of truth and of purity, burn it from my life. Strip me clean of that, and what's left in the ashes I know is true. It is my soul, and that is what needs to happen to the world. And I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I really think it's having the courage to have these types of conversations and to no longer turn a blind eye to it, because that's what's happening, is that there is a blind eye that's being turned. People are living their day like it's reality just is going on as normal. These horrible things are released. Our children are going into the public institutions that are governed by these people in power that are kidnapping and sex trafficking these kids. There are people, like, we are on stolen land. This is stolen land at its core already. And people are getting kidnapped. And the kids and the women are going missing. So that means they are still actively funneling people into their sex trafficking business right in front of our face. Right now. It is happening right now. So what are we going to do, everybody? We need to do something.
It's true. And up until now, everything Ciara has just said has been brushed off as conspiracy, you know, and that's what's so maddening about it is like, now it takes this sort of just atrocious event, cultural collapse, for people to finally just open their eyes to what's really happening, to what we've been talking about all along in this podcast, which is like the whole thing is corrupt. Every institution, every leg of the system, particularly in American culture as the superpower, is corrupt. It's all corrupt. It is not fixable. The system is not fixable. And so that is the question. What are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? You know, I know Ciara and I talk about this often, obviously, and we also talk about it in our own lives. What do we do day to day? Because as we sort of mentioned earlier on, it is not uncommon for women to have these kinds of things happen on a micro level, and you just kind of brush it off. A guy lifts up your skirt and touches your butt, and then you're just like, stop it. Like, when really that should be a huge problem. And it's embarrassing, it's demoralizing, it's everything. And yet women have learned how to just be kind of like, stop, you know, just sweet and like not coming harsh with the response, and boundaries a little weak.
Yeah.
And what we're learning, I think, is like, if nothing else, and at least as a place to start, hold the line in your life. Hold the line in your life. Right now, hold the line in your life. Stop making things that are absolutely not okay. And if you need to be the one to kill the vibe, to say, actually, I really didn't like that you just lifted up my skirt and put your hands in somewhere they don't belong without my permission. And if that's going to be embarrassing for someone, or if somebody might hear that and then people get in trouble, oh, fucking well. Because it's time for people to start getting in trouble. It's time for us to not be just having this elephant in the room that is the problem of humanity, and us being like, oh, it's fine. Let's put a little bow on it and make it, at least it's a cute elephant. We see the lights.
Or even let's turn the other way. Let's look over here. Let's not look at that. We know that it's there.
Like, you know, and so maybe we won't come to the conclusion of what we're going to do. I mean, I think she and I are very much both down to start a revolution, and that could be where the whole thing is headed.
That's where it's headed.
And if you're watching this today wondering what you can do about it, you start right now, and you stop making things okay that are not okay. And, you know, you stand face to face with Aries. And what I mean by that is, Ciara and I, funnily enough, one of the first things that brought us together is that both of our favorite movies, Wonder Woman. And Aries is like the war of God. So Wonder Woman's coming into this foreign world where she comes from this like Lemuria type of reality where it's
island of goddesses.
Yeah, literally, no problem.
They don't need men at all.
Yes. And then men come in, and then there's all this war and all these things are happening. And her job then sort of eventually becomes to face the god of war, which is Aries, to figure out who's sort of the god of war in this picture, and to go head to head with Aries. And I think it's time society goes head to head with Aries, you know, and I think that Aries has many tentacles and probably many heads. And I think one of the main tentacles is sexual dysfunction. And because sexual dysfunction is so like taboo and awkward and like uncomfortable, we like skirt around it. But it's a huge problem. It is a huge problem, and nobody's talking about it. And these Epstein files have just only solidified what I just said, that it is a huge problem. It is beyond huge. It is taking over the world right now, and they're using their sexually predatory nature to gain power through magic and other sacrifice. I mean, it's all in the files now. It's all here. It's all in the emails. It's all being laid out in front of us. This is a very real thing that's happening. And this is the leaders of American culture, and therefore the leaders of the world.
I'm glad I asked, like, what are we going to do about it? Because I think you answered it beautifully with, it starts with our everyday life, just saying no more and speaking up against the monstrosities that show up in our life. And I also really think it's just stop turning a blind eye. So we all have those family members that are hardcore, and I think it's important to challenge them. I think it's important to use your voice and just try to understand like where this belief comes from. Like, why do you trust that leader? Like, what about him is allowing you to feel safe enough to release your children to these institutions and just start and not do it so in a way that's like provoking or, you know, confrontational, but just like from the lens of, I want to understand your belief system because it's not right. It's not true. This isn't the actual reality of what's actually happening. And I think it's having the courage to have those conversations with those family members and with those people, and just your voice is so powerful. That's why we are on a podcast here right now. That's the whole reason why we started this podcast, was because we know the power behind our voice, because our voice allows us to shed awareness on what's actually happening. So start having those conversations, start educating people, start doing your own research so that way you have the evidence to back it up, and then start formulating groups of people that are like-minded with you so that way you have your tribe with you. So if things ever do burn to the fucking ground, which it's coming. Like, we've all known this on the spiritual path. We have felt it in our bones that the collapse is coming, and we are probably going to have to all go to communities and learn how to forage and grow our own food and have our own water sources. There's so many people that are already preparing for that. We know it's coming because we know in our hearts and our intuition that this is not sustainable for our future. And I think it's just getting comfortable with the fact that this world is not what it seems like, and you have to let go of the comfort of that and just realize that the love and connection that you have with your tribe is all that really matters and what will get you through these times.
Yeah. And it's literally the whole system. I mean, whether your family is hard right or hard left, doesn't matter. Yeah. Wings of the same bird, like, and as if the other side is the bad guys. It's not that is a divisive tool that has been used to keep people separate. Because when the people unite, when we say, I don't care what side you're on, we need to come together right now, yeah. That's when we're going to start winning. That's when the real revolution will happen, because they've always known that the people as a unit and as unified will always be far stronger than them. And so, you know, it like, whether your family is praising the current president or the past president or a celebrity or any other public figure, the point is, ask them, like, why do you have these people on a pedestal? Down to the Dalai Lama, the spiritual leaders, the gurus. I mean, they're all in there. They're all in there. Nobody is not in there. And this is what we're saying is, like, it's all a problem. It is all a problem. It is all of them. It is not one side or the other. It's not one thing or the other. There is no, like, institution that a tentacle is not deeply embedded in, and that is not built on what we're describing here. And so it has to be all of them. You know, I'm like, you know, I had some like musicians that I used to kind of like think were cool and look up to. And now it's just like, you know, I mean, as all this is happening, the Grammys happened, I think, that same night that all this came out. And it's just like, you just can't see any of them the same. You can't see any of them the same now, because it just makes you wonder, what have all of them done to be sitting in those chairs, dazzling and glowing and looking perfect and on the stages and winning these awards, that the way to win the award is to sell your soul and to sort of feed on the souls of others. I mean, it's so bad. It is so bad. And we can't afford to just pretend like that's not the case anymore. And I think the reason Ciara and I both feel so strongly about this is because we see it so constantly in our own lives, especially as powerful women. Because in powerful women, we are, as we've described before, even more of a threat to the ego and to what's happening here, because we see right through it, and we always have. And so when a person of evil feels seen, they lash out and they punish the people who see them. And Ciara and I have both experienced being punished by powerful men, frankly, unfortunately, because we simply saw them, or because they did something to us that they know they should not have done, or X, Y, and Z other reason of literally why we both have been punished by people like this. because the people in power, most 9 times out of 10, have climbed their way there by stepping on the necks of others, by being deceitful and lying and evil and selling their soul. I mean, I wish I was being dramatic.
I
But
know.
the problem is, it's actually so true. And once you start to like be a powerful person and then, vibrationally match with other powerful people, you realize these people aren't actually powerful at all. They've just done things that have sort of siphoned the energy of others for the most part to put themselves in these positions where they are perceived as powerful, but then you meet them and they're just like snaky and weird. I mean, we know exactly who I'm talking about when I say this. Because
Yucky little gremlin trolls.
Literally.
And there's no real power in them. It's just deep insecurity. And I was thinking too, like how absolutely terrifying it was to speak up against that person in power who she firsthand witnessed the way he was abusing me, and in fact did so right in front of her too, and actually looped her into the abusive cycle and tried to find a way to bring her down as well. And what ended up happening